What's up, everyone? I'm Thomas,
And I'm Derek, and
and
this
this
is
is Snubbed.
Snubbed.
Snubbed is our opportunity to look back at the Oscars with the benefit of hindsight and correct what the Oscars got wrong. Of course, we can't correct everything with the Oscars, but we are going to do our very best to correct some categories that we think could have gone to more deserving winners. Um, and I think we have a very interesting conversation to have today about the year and the category that we have chosen. Derek, how are you feeling about what we are about to discuss today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I do like that this is one of the earlier times. I feel like we've kind of stacked some of our more recent discussions, kind of back to back, only separated by a year or two. Film places that we're a little bit more familiar with, award shows that we have very vividly in recent memory. And so this is a really fun one to kind of reach back and see a generation of film where I think both you and I were relatively young, but as we kind of go through the list and talk about some of these movies, they're pretty influential. And this is a very interesting year because I think they actually get some things right. They definitely get some things wrong, but more so than like latter years where I think like you could just scrap the whole thing and redo every category. I feel like this one's got some good ones. This one's got some heaters on the list. So I'm excited for this discussion. I think it'll be
I
good.
I hate to make you feel old, but
I don't do this.
you
Don't.
just
You're gonna do this live. You're gonna do
I'm
this right
sorry.
now. How dare
It's
you?
about to happen. So you said at a time when you and I were both pretty young. I was born in 90,
I
and
hate you
so
so much. I just want to let everybody know who's watching that this will be our last snubbed. Um, I'm retiring and I'm gonna walk into the ocean. Um,
So just to clarify, we are doing the 61st Academy Awards this year on this episode. And so this is the award show for 1989, honoring films from 1988, years that I did not exist. So this is I'm sorry, Derek.
oh no.
this
Ugh.
is this is new territory for me. So I'm not very familiar with 1988 films. 80s film is still like this whole frontier that I still need to conquest and learn more about. And that's one of the reasons that I really enjoy doing the show, is because it gives me time to do homework that I enjoy, you know?
Yeah.
So I was able to, in preparation for this, watch a number of 1988 films that were nominated for this conversation. I'm going to be totally upfront. I did not see everything from 1988, and so I do still have some blind spots, but I made sure to watch what I hope will be relevant for this conversation.
Well, and this is a year too, and remember, for those of you who kind of follow the Oscars, obviously that's why you're here. But this is a year where everything is still smaller, right? So categories are all five or less. They're perfectly fine. Like we'll look at like best original song, and there's only three nominees, and they're perfectly fine with doing that because one, there weren't as many movies that were being made, and two, those categories are just significantly smaller. So one of the things when we picked this year, and I kind of looked at just kind of what was nominated in the above the line categories, I text Thomas and I was like, dude, you only have to watch like five movies, and you've covered all of 1988 and the 61st Oscars because
It
it's
is
like five movies in every single above the line category.
it is funny because I watched all the movies for the category we're going to talk about today. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know if I got to all the best pictures, but I forgot two things. One, there's only five.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the vast majority of them were in the category that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I went back to look and I'm like, okay, which best picture did I miss? And I'm like, oh, I didn't. I've seen all the best picture nominees. So
Yeah.
so that was a nice little surprise for me.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, no, we didn't have to do too much. Um, so yeah, so that's what we're gonna get into, and so little nod for you guys, just so you kind of know where the discussion is gonna go. We are gonna talk about best supporting actress,
Best supporting actress. And
because yeah, there's a reason that
there,
Thomas has laid out. So
I've been
we're
thinking about this. I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks that we were discussing what we wanted to cover. And I have a thesis. Okay, I have a thesis. Hang with me. We're gonna get to it. Okay. Um, Before we dive into the 61st Academy Awards, I kind of want to talk a little bit about the current Oscar race, and
Mhm.
by the current Oscar race, with this being August, what I mean is the upcoming TIFF lineup.
Yes.
Both Derrick and I will be attending and covering TIFF, which we're both super excited about, and of course TIFF, Venice, Telluride. This is kind of the kickoff to
NIF has a
NIF as well.
huge lineup right now. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
So
the
we're
kickoff.
heading, we're heading into award season. We're heading into festival season. So yeah, I think this is a good time because we're on the heels of that beginning. And once that starts, we'll have a much clearer picture of what this current Oscar race is going to look like. We've talked about this before too, offline, but this definitely feels like a year that is backloaded rather than front loaded. I'd say minus like what, Dune 2,
Right.
which is obviously going to be a huge technical contender. Most of the best films that I think are really going to contend in all of these categories, I would say 80% of them are pushed to September to January, really,
Yeah.
as far as releases. And all of them are going to be on these festival slates, from basically Venice, Telluride, TIFF, NIF, all five of them that are running congruently, basically. I think that's where we're going to see all of those big Oscar players. So
Yeah, I totally
yeah.
agree. With TIFF, really quickly, just name a couple that you think are gonna show up in award season this year.
Oh man. So yeah, we have some on here. I definitely think Honora is going to pop up. That's one I'm super, super excited about. I have made sure that that's something that I'm going to put on my schedule. I do think that All We Imagine Is Light will be for Best International Feature. The Brutalist, which is like a 3.5 hour movie that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see it at TIFF, and it better be a masterpiece, because that is a lot of time to spend in one theater and miss a bunch of screenings for one movie. But I do think those are some that that are heading to TIFF. There's some other ones that I feel like are kind of on the fence. There's a couple of sports epics that just feel coded for Oscars, like Oscar baits. Like there's a movie called The Fire Inside with Brian Tyree Henry. There's another one called Unstoppable. Both of them just feel very coded for Oscar bait type of thing. And I'd love to say that we're past that. But if we were, we wouldn't be doing the show. So yeah. So, but what else do you have? What else do you think is going to land?
I a friend of mine put me onto this one, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm hearing really good things about I'm Still Here. It has
Okay.
its world premiere at Venice, and then we'll go to TIFF right after. Don't know a whole lot about it, but according to my friend, this is one that is going to try to do a big Oscar push.
Is that
So
for international?
honestly, I have big hopes for it in hopefully multiple categories. Again,
Okay.
this is just blind speculation. I could be very wrong, but I'm gonna put chips in this basket because when I do that and I'm right, I feel so accomplished. So so I'm putting that out there. I'm Still Here is one that's on my very high on my radar. But really I think, and this is going to be a recurring theme in this conversation, animated film. Um, there are at least three animated films at TIFF that's like, yeah, those could be Oscar nominees for best animated. You've got Piece by Piece, which is the story of Pharrell Williams, told through Lego animation, and I love Lego animation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about it without the Lego movie comedy, but I think the animation is still a beautiful style to animate a
Sure.
story in. So there's that. I think The Wild Robot, could
Big
be
push
enough.
for that one.
Yeah,
Big
another
push
one
for
that
that
could
one.
have a really big push. And then the one that Twitter just blew up about when you asked Derrick, Flow just
Yeah.
got a and the response was so strong on your Twitter, I changed my schedule to add Flow.
It was I so for those of you that don't know, if you've ever been to TIFF, and this year, just a little background, 200 something films, and you're bound to have overlaps. And
Yeah.
so day one, 6 films that I want to see all start within 30 minutes of each other. Uh, like 6 of them that were on my list of like, oh, I gotta see these. All 6 of them, and I cut my time short this year, so I can only pick one.
Yeah.
Like I do not like. There's no other screening that I'll be able to make for any of these other movies. I can only pick one. So that's what I put up. I put that up on my Twitter. And above everything, everybody was like, "Bro, Flo, like, why are you even asking this question?" So it is on my list now. So yeah, but I think that one's gonna have a big push for best animated feature. I think it'll land there for sure.
I hope so. I'm going out of my way for this film, so
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
big expectations for it. Last one I'll throw out, which everyone else has already has high expectations for, is Queer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll show up in award season as well. I mean, if it doesn't, I guess Luca has a couple a couple options to get through award season with this year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the cool
So
thing about and last one I'll shout is
yeah.
Conclave. I think
Oh yeah.
Conclave is gonna just absolutely be in almost every above the line category except actress and supporting actress because there's no women in the movie.
Great.
But it's also the Vatican, so kind
Ooh,
of
yeah.
kind of accurate, you know. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, a
That's
lot of good
funny.
stuff. A lot of good stuff. So that picture will come into focus a little bit more after we see some of these, because a lot of these, only people that went to Cannes have seen some of them. So some of these are having world premieres, some of these are
Hmm.
having North American premieres. So the picture of the current Oscar race is not in focus yet.
Stay tuned, more to come.
Yes.
I guess the next time we do this will be after TIFF, so we'll
Yeah.
have more of an idea on the next episode. All right, let's talk about the 61st Academy Awards show. I didn't go back and watch as many highlights as I wanted to from this show, but it aired Wednesday, March 29th, 1989, like I said, honoring films from 88. This was a show that did not have a host. And so they relied on guest speakers to keep entertainment going through this show. And the Best Picture winner this year was Rain Man, which I finally saw for the first time recently, and
Same. Hand up.
yeah,
Same. Yeah.
and was reminded that Tom Cruise is a great actor. You know,
You kind of forget.
you kind of, I
You
mean,
kind of
look,
forget.
we
Yeah.
love our action, our Tom Cruise action. We love our Mission Impossibles and running really fast through scenes. We love Tom Cruise for that. But man, when he puts on a role, this is a good reminder that he does it really well. So
Yeah. And I like a-hole Tom Cruise a lot.
mm-hmm.
Because I think
Yes.
he is I think he is still very charming, but at the same time, like he channels that charisma into kind of somebody that takes a long time to be redeemed. And I think those are some of my favorite roles that he's ever done. Something like Collateral,
Mm-hmm.
where like he's just the slickest a-hole you've ever met. Like he's awful. Like he's an
Yeah.
awful person in this movie, but like he just does it so well. I watched Taps for the first time this year, and like he is just an absolute psychopath in that movie. And I'm just like, God, give me more psychopath Tom Cruise.
Right.
But yeah, no, this was an absolute smash hit this year.
Yeah.
Huge, showed up big in the 61st Oscars. So
Mm-hmm.
won Best Picture. I think it won Best Director. Dustin Hoffman ran away with Best Actor, right? Yeah. So yeah, really, really big year for Rain Man. And I do want to talk about Rain Man for a second
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I saw a lot of comparisons to Green Book.
Oh,
So
huh.
because here's the comparisons, right?
Okay.
They're both road trip movies that
Yes.
take very complex issues and kind of boil them down to its most simplest form. That's the read that people have made.
Yeah, but Green Book wasn't good.
Yes. So here's my theory. Here's where they differ, and this is kind of what I
Okay.
was realizing. Like, if you watch Rain Man through the eyes of 2024, which obviously, if you're like me, that's what we did. But I'm always very conscious of what did we know at the time.
Mm.
So what, 50 years almost, like right around there, 45 years, something ridiculous like that. So when you try to place it in 2024, yeah, it's really insensitive and it's wrong, and it basically reduces all neurodivergent persons to giant man toddlers
Right.
who happen to be really good at math or like are
Right.
just incredibly smart, right? It's very reductive in what it does. However, the difference between something like Rain Man and Green Book is, one, Rain Man has a sincerity to it.
Hmm.
There is a genuineness of what they're trying to do, and it feels very much, hey, this is the knowledge that we have at the time. This
Hmm.
is how we understand something that we don't understand. We're trying to do this in the most sincere way possible.
Right.
Green Book is having a 1950s discussion about racism and how to solve it in fucking 2018. Like, it just,
Ooh.
what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean? So it just, the conversations that Green Book is having, like, we're already past the
Hmm.
knowledge of what systemic racism looks like, what actual racism looks like, even revisionist history, and how we view racism in the 1950s and 1960s of when this movie takes place. Like, we've already had those conversations, and we
Hmm.
know that they're much more complex and nuanced. And then here comes Green Book, like, oh, we've never had conversations about this before. Everybody loves a white savior. Like, I need you to slow your roll. So yeah, so that's where they differ. There is a genuineness to uh to Rain Man that I think allows it to hold up. And then also, like, the script is just really solid. It's just a
Hmm.
really solid, like, road trip drama. And then you're right, Tom Cruise is amazing in it. Dustin Hoffman is amazing in it.
Hmm.
The score is Hans Zimmer for some reason. Like, just, just like, what is happening behind the scenes here?
They just wanted the nomination. He got the nomination for that,
He
right?
did. No, he definitely did. So yeah, so I think it's a, yeah, in 2024, sure, it's a problematic movie, but in 1988, it's a movie that really does feel like it's done with a lot of care and a lot of
Yeah.
concern for its characters. So
I would
um,
agree. And I think that this is a year. I mean, I kind of wish I could be in the conversation of when this year was happening, because there's actually a lot of interpersonal issues that end up in the Oscars this year. You have Mississippi Burning, a race
mhm.
relations film that tackles that subject very harshly, which is the intent there. Can be a tough film to watch. But you have that. You have uh what's the other film I was thinking of? Jodie
Oh,
Foster,
The
the
Accused.
accused,
Yes,
about
yes,
rape.
yes.
Yes, really intense. I don't know why it took forever. I just recently watched that movie. But very serious subject matters here, very serious, like interpersonal social justice kind of topics showing up here in this award season. And I wish that I could, transplant myself into 88 when these films are coming out. Oh, also, I guess fun fact, the all of the best picture nominees came out in December of 88. So there's an
It feels
interesting.
very much like that, though. You can kind of tell, and I think the biggest indicator is The Accidental Tourist
Yeah.
finding its way in here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And we'll talk about that pretty shortly. But yeah, some very serious topics here that I think all tried they are all very well intentioned and are really just trying to bring these topics to the forefront of conversations in the best way that they knew how to at that
yeah,
point. And so, like you said, some of them don't really translate, but some do. I think The Accused, I'm watching that and thinking, this is actually very relevant. This is very
yes.
appropriately addressed.
Mhm.
For such a heinous topic. I
Yeah,
think so much about how this is approached, and all the conversations that happen in the film are conversations we're happening now. This is a movie that could come out right now,
yeah,
and still be relevant. So yeah,
yeah,
that was kind of my observation as I was watching these movies, is the subject matters and how serious they
yeah.
were, but also how sincerely they were tackled.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think The Accused is probably the best holdover
Mhm.
when it comes to subject matter, because I watched it for the first time this year too, and I was just absolutely blown away that in 1988 they were able to get away with that scene,
Right.
because like I could not believe how long they let that go. And like, I mean, props to them for pushing for just like, this is what this is. But I couldn't believe it that it was still going. Just absolutely insane in 1988 that they were able to do that. But you're right, that one feels the most relevant. That one feels the most, sadly, the most unchanged. Like, you could make this movie today and it would probably still feel just as visceral and just as infuriating, and just as frustrating, which tells you that nothing has changed in how we treat and or believe women in the last 45 years, which is just, that's a whole different frustrating rant that we can go on. Whereas something like Mississippi Burning, it feels, it feels like the way that Hollywood treats these types of things. Like we talked about it a little bit, where it just has that repetitiveness of just like Black trauma just kind of beaten down, and two white men are going to try to fix the South. And it's not, again, it's not Green Book, where it's just so reductive. Like that is how, they kind of do that. And then you see it pop up in a number of, like, A Time to Kill is basically the double feature of Mississippi Burning. Like they're literally the same movie almost, just one's a lawyer, one's fed. Like that's really it does have kind of that same thing. But you're right. I think being in that conversation at the time would have been really interesting, because I think there are some really interesting films on here that made it up there. I will hold on before I get into my okay. I was like looking, and like I was like, do I want to talk about this right now? But I'll talk about it for a second.
Let's go.
It was very strange to watch Dangerous Liaisons for the first time, having watched Cruel Intentions first, and having that be like an incredibly influential movie on my young high school, like freshman in high school. Yeah, like that awakened some things in me, if we're being really honest. This is the internet; it's forever. Sorry, I don't know what you want me to do. So I've known for a very long time that like Cruel Intentions is an adaptation of Dangerous Liaisons. I've always known that, but I've never known that like contextually of what that actually means. So then I went back and I'm watching Dangerous Liaisons, and I'm like, oh, this is like 17th century Cruel Intentions. Like,
that's so funny, because I don't like hate me, guys, but I have not seen Cruel Intentions yet. So I have the benefit of having seen Dangerous Liaisons first, and now I can go see Cruel Intentions and watch it in that order.
I think that is actually the right way to do it, because Cruel Intentions is like, it is very much the 90s version of Dangerous Liaison. Like, and I say that and it sounds like, well, duh, because that's what it is. But like, when you watch it, you'll be like, oh yeah, no, I know exactly what he means. Like, I mean a lot more than what that statement actually says.
Well, you're gonna hate me for this statement too. Cruel Intentions is pretty much a period piece as well. Anyway.
I'm walking into the ocean immediately after this episode. Immediately after.
So more fun facts as we briskly move along. Just a couple more fun facts. This award show, the 61st Academy Award show, was the first time that presenters announced each winner as the award goes to, rather than and the winner is.
Oh, interesting.
According to Wikipedia.
That's what it says. Look, I love me some good half-ass internet research.
I know, right? So if anyone wants to fact check me on that, I could use the comments and the engagement. So go for it. But
that's a good fact. I like that, and the award goes to, and the Oscar goes to, instead of and the winner is. That's really interesting. I like that.
And then the last note, which is probably going to be the most relevant for this conversation, and you will see why shortly. Sigourney Weaver became the 5th performer to receive 2 acting nominations in the same year. She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in Working Girl and Best Actress in Gorillas in the Mist. So. Just quick relevant notes from this show for today. This is the award show that Beetlejuice won Best Makeup. Good fun little fact on the heels of Beetlejuice, the sequel, coming out here shortly. Also, the winner of the Best Supporting Actress category, Geena Davis, will be playing in Blink Twice this weekend.
Did not know she was in that, and now I'm very interested.
There we go. And at some point we'll probably talk about aliens because Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. All right, let me get to my thesis here. Okay, guys,
Okay, all
hear
right.
me out. All right, we chose the 1989 61st Academy Awards, and I'm looking at the lineup. And as Derek, as you mentioned, there are a lot of things that were done right here.
Mhm.
I'm happy with the Best Picture winner, Rain Man. It was great. In fact, anything that Rain Man won, I was happy with. Um, and we talked a lot about the best actress category only because so shush internet. Okay, look, I know that Jodie Foster is great in The Accused, but something that I was thinking about is that she then went on to also win for Silence of the Lambs, and so I'm like, spread the wealth, in hindsight. But then I feel like that's kind of reductive, and I think Derek, you called me out on that, so well done.
I did. I did. And it's funny because we chose to do, originally we were going to do Best Actress,
Right,
and we did that before I think both of us had watched The Accused.
right.
And so up until that point, I was like, yeah, like Sigourney Weaver's great in Gorillas, and
Mhm.
like she's very, very good in this movie. I'm perfectly. And then I watched The Accused, and I reached out to Thomas, and I was like, I don't think we can take this one away
That's
from
not
her.
correct. Yeah, not correct. That was a good win for Jodie Foster. And yeah, so I had to back off of that idea. But here's my thesis, right? Sigourney Weaver is the actress that was nominated for two awards here, after having not won any awards before or having been nominated for any awards after. And so my thesis here is that I think Sigourney Weaver should be an Academy Award winning actress. And I know what all of you are thinking. It should have been for Aliens. Yes, you're right. I mean, that was a tough year, and sci-fi. I mean, they weren't quite progressive enough to
Not
give
yet.
that many wins to a sci-fi film. I think Aliens only won like the technical category. Um, but but I think that snub should have been enough goodwill to help push Sigourney Weaver into winning something here. And obviously it wasn't going to be for Best Actress, but that's my thesis.
Mhm.
Um, we should take a look at the other nominees and see if that thesis holds up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so at first um when I saw what you were trying to go for,
Mhm.
I was like, no, I don't think that works, right? Because obviously I watched The Accused and then just like completely changed everything. And I was like, no, you can't give that to her. But then I looked at the best supporting actress. I watched The Accidental Tourist, and I love Geena Davis. I will always love Geena Davis, but I think this is a good category that we can correct.
Right.
Yeah,
I I was also very underwhelmed with the accidental tourist. And like you're kind of alluding to, I don't think that's Geena Davis's fault. I don't think that she really it's necessarily her bad on this one. She's perfectly fine in the film. It's just not a film I enjoyed watching. I don't think that I don't think that it gives her talent enough space to shine
yeah,
in the production. And so unfortunately, that I mean, that's the nature of film. It's a very collaborative effort, and there are plenty of films where an actor outshines the film. But when it comes to the Oscars, I really want to look at the full package, right? I really want to
mhm,
look at everything. And Geena Davis, good performance in an okay film. It's like, and this was the only category that The Accidental Tourist won. It was almost like an accidental win.
but it's all over the nominations though. Like
It is like,
it's
where
all over.
what is this movie doing at the Oscars? I again, this is
People,
another point where I wish I could have been a part of those
yeah,
conversations in 88
it
going
feels
into the 89
it
Oscars.
yeah, and it feels very goodwill. Like
Yeah.
Kasdan was on a run. It's scored by John Williams.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the cast is incredible. Like, it's got A Blink and You Miss Him, that Bill Pullman and Ed Beagley,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got Geena Davis, and you got depressed William Hurt and Kathleen Turner. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's this
Right.
stacked cast with an incredible score and a writer director who, it was on a tear. and nothing in this movie works. Like it
Nothing.
is the most distant experience I've had watching a movie in a very, very long time.
I I
Yeah,
struggled getting through it. I really did.
yeah. No, I did
So
too. I did
so
too.
that all of that taken into account, this seemed like a good category to correct. And
I do want to mention something here too,
yep.
because and this ties into Sigourney Weaver and her career, because she comes out kind of swinging a little bit with like, so she's completely unknown. She hits Alien, and then she does Ghostbusters,
Hmm.
and it's like there's some missing in here, but those are like the big roles. Then she does Aliens, and then she hits us with a 1-2 of Gorillas in the Mist and Working Girl. Um,
And really quick, sorry. I also want to say, not only was The Accused such a great performance from Jodie Foster, but I actually didn't care for Gorillas in the Mist. So, that ended up also playing into this factor
it's
of
got
like,
some weird it's got some weird functionality to
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like she's great. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong, she's great,
absolutely.
but she's not Jodie Foster in The Accused. Um, but so I think this is a good time to have this conversation, because she hits you with the 1-2 of Gorillas in the Mist and Working Girl, where she's great in both.
Hmm.
But then the next run is Ghostbusters 2, Alien 3, Dave, Copycat, The Ice Storm, Alien Resurrection, Galaxy Quest, Heart. Like I'm kind of skipping over these smaller ones, but like Heartbreakers, Holes, The Village, Happily Never After, Vantage Point, Be Kind, Rewind,
Hmm.
Wally. And then she goes into Avatar. Like there's whatever she was doing in 1988,
Hmm.
she kind of never does again.
Right.
I feel like the closest you can get to is maybe Dave, because she's pretty good in that movie.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, she kind of just abandons whatever cred she would have had, and that's, I don't know. It's strange, and I think it helps me kind of buy into your argument, your theory here of like this was the time,
It
because
could,
she doesn't do anything else
it
after this
really
that would
could
be
have,
worthy of it.
right? Because I when I think about these award shows, right, whether it be Grammys, Emmys, Oscars, Tonys, whatever, right, I think that winning this kind of award really should help shape the future of your career, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you have an Oscar and you are Oscar winner, right? And they actually in the opening segment of the show, this is something that's actually like really leaned into. You are when you take home an Oscar, you are an Oscar winner. That kind of changes how people perceive you. And being Oscar nominated is also pretty prominent. But I think if she I would like to think that if she had won the Oscar, that maybe we would have seen a different trajectory for her career after that. Um,
Yeah.
and I think
I
that
don't I don't
Alien,
know that. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think she does Alien 3.
no, right, no, she doesn't do Alien 3.
I don't think she does it.
She's on to more. I don't necessarily want to say prestigious, but more serious roles. She's doing more, maybe more dramas, more of
Yes.
these, yeah, less of the
Yeah.
blockbuster or popular films, and um more of these kind of roles. And I guess I mean I would have loved to have seen that from her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is the last year she's nominated for an Oscar. And then like you're mentioning, her career just kind of goes in this direction, which isn't bad. Like we all
Right.
know Sigourney Weaver, we all like Sigourney Weaver,
Yeah,
presumably.
she's an icon. She's,
I
yeah.
I might have nominated her for Holes. Okay, that's
She's good. She's good. Look, and I don't want any of this to sound like I'm besmirching her career choices.
right.
Like obviously, like Ripley is synonymous with Sigourney Weaver.
Yep.
Like I get that. Dave is a great movie. Copycat is a pretty fine thriller. Galaxy Quest is, I love Galaxy Quest. Like I
Yeah.
love that movie. I'm a village defender. I don't care. Fight me. Um, Vantage Point is better than most people give it credit for.
Right.
Wally's almost a masterpiece. Avatar can
Hmm.
suck it. Um,
But she probably made a pretty penny off that one.
I know. Cabin in the Woods is great. I mean, she's not star. That's the thing, though, is
Oh,
like
that's right. Yes.
so much of this that she has after her career, after this pivotal moment in her career, so much of this is off of the clout of her sci-fi fame.
Hmm.
Like she rides this sci-fi heroine into things like Cabin in the Woods,
Hmm.
into a lot of these movies, and you're right. I think if she would have taken home the gold, I don't know And look, not everybody goes on to do great things. Like Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Oscar and then did Snow Dogs like right after it. Like the fuck, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't happen all the time. Like we
Right.
don't always like, back it up with success. But I do think you're right. I think it would have changed some of that trajectory. I don't think she would have been so easily swayed back with obviously a ton of money, but like
Hmm.
I don't think she does Alien 3. I don't think she does Alien Resurrection. I don't even think she does Ghostbusters 2, honestly.
Right.
Like I think she bypasses a lot of those because she can make smarter choices.
Hmm.
And she'll do more stuff like Dave, which is a little bit more in line with those types of things. So
Hmm.
yeah, it would have been interesting if that was the case.
And again, I wish that could be a part of that post-Oscar conversation. Like, what were people saying about Sigourney Weaver getting nominated for two awards and not winning either of them?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
did that, like, are there headlines that help us understand more of what she was thinking and feeling after that?
Yeah.
Because if I was an actor, I get nominated for a sci-fi film and get snubbed. Maybe understandably so. It's sci-fi. It's my first
Yeah.
nomination, but then I get a double nomination and I still can't win. Maybe we do go just make the money.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like, give me that fat check. I'll shave my head. Let's
Right.
fine,
And
fine.
I wonder if that's it. I really want to know, like, is that what she went through after this award show, or was she always going to go that way? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think we make the point, if she had won, that might have I don't want to say it would have put her on a better track for her career, just a different track
Yes.
than she did. Um but let's talk about the other actresses in this category, because all of them are still very relevant today, actually.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool to see. So I don't know, I guess we're on Sigourney Weaver. Do we want to continue talking about Working Girl? Because we haven't actually brought that movie up
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. Working Girl is one of those star-studded gems that is. Uh, I have a hard time with what I want to do with this movie and like where I place it because I very much enjoyed Working Girl. I think everybody is great. Everybody's firing on all cylinders. It's very quirky. It's very fun. Has a lot to say, has a lot on its mind. Um, I don't know that I would champion it as like one of the best films of 1988. I understand why it's everywhere, but it is. It's one of those movies where like the performances are better than the movie itself. And like
Yeah.
Melanie Griffin's great, Sigourney Weaver's great, Joan Cusack's great, Harrison Ford is great. Like I went on a little mini like young Harrison Ford run and watched some of his stuff. Like that guy, you want to talk about runs, man? He just whoa, that run is sick. Like he has such a sick run when he was young and coming up. It's a nasty run. So yeah, I enjoyed Working Girl a lot actually.
Yeah, I did too. It makes sense that it was a Christmas release.
Yes.
It does fill that role of being kind of the fun, entertaining kind of film. And yeah, I enjoyed the performances a lot. And I think that you're right. What spoils Working Girl for me is just kind of how it ends. It's just one of those endings that just kind of like, okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
on board with the happy-go-lucky conclusion, right?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe it could have done something a little more, I don't know, maybe not inventive, but just I don't know, something different, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's like my biggest fault with it. The rest of the movie I really enjoyed. And I'm happy to see it at the Oscars. It just happened to be positioned in the right time of the year. Apparently, December is the time. Um, and
We still hold to that, even though it's not true. But
right. But yeah, and I think that the Joan Cusack nomination was kind of cool. Is cool to see. Because I thought she did have a good supporting role in that film. And so yeah, I'm happy with it here in the Oscars, and being so prominent with its cast.
yeah. We can talk real quick about Frances McDormand and Michelle Pfeiffer. So Frances McDormand was nominated for Mississippi Burning, and then Michelle Pfeiffer was nominated for Dangerous Liaisons. Um, sure.
Sure.
Uh, uh,
I
I
mean, how, let's see, Dangerous Liaisons, who else would have deserved that nomination more? I don't know. I think it's fine.
I mean, I guess no one.
Right.
I Dangerously it's such a, it's so it's fun. It's
Hmm.
really fun. It's a really fun kind of twisted, seductive movie, and
Yeah.
you'll
Oh my
find that
gosh.
very much with Cruel Intentions as well. But
I did not realize, and this could just be me being gay, that boobs could be pushed up that high.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like, dang,
Oh
Glenn,
yeah, no,
okay.
they actually what's it's just a little sneak peek. They do that with Sarah Michelle Gellar in the '90s in Cruel Intentions. There are a number of scenes where she is just basically in like a '90s corset, and they just get those puppies like just
Right up
it's
there.
oh man yeah, Dangerous Liaisons.
Like,
What a
how is
wild
she
ride.
even breathing?
I know what a wild ride. Yeah, I don't know that anybody else from that movie. Like, I
I
get.
mean, Uma Thurman, I guess, had a decent enough
So
role, but
I would probably, honestly, I would give it to her over um uh
Michelle Pfeiffer.
over Michelle Pfeiffer. Only reason is because I understand why you're like trying to award like the more dramatic
Mm,
part, which
hmm.
is Pfeiffer's role, but uh Thurman coming in so young and just like she's a child in this
Yes, she
movie.
is.
It's just
Yep.
absolutely insane. But she just feels to me like the one that understood the assignment here, and uh I would give it to her over um over I don't know why I keep missing her
Oh, Michelle
name.
Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Over Michelle Pfeiffer, Michelle P. Pfeiffer. That's what I used to call her when I was a kid.
Pfeiffer.
P. Pfeiffer. Yeah, over Michelle Pfeiffer, and I love both of those actresses. I think they're great. Um, but yeah, I think if you need somebody to have like the quirky fun role, I think Uma Thurman probably, and also like she has to make it seem like it's really awakening to have sex with John Malkovich. So if that's not acting, I don't know what it is, and that's not John Malkovich slander. I love him, but I mean, come on.
That's so funny. Yeah, I agree. I totally see that. But I guess um yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer had the more dramatic role. She's on the cover, you know. So yeah, there's Dangerous Liaisons. And what about Mississippi Burning? What are we thinking about
I
Frances
just don't.
McDormand's character?
I just don't think she is. I don't think she's important to the story in any way.
Mm.
I know they try to make her important, but she feels very much like an outlier. She feels like a unpaid off subplot, and I just don't think she does very much in this movie.
Mhm.
I think she's much better in a lot of other things, or even around this time when she's like young and kind of coming up. She's like, this is a little bit predated that, but like she's much better in Blood Simple. Um, and yeah, I don't know, it's such a forgettable performance for me, that I was really surprised that it landed here as a nomination.
Mhm. Yeah, I do think that her role was pretty subdued in the film. Um yeah, it doesn't entirely pay off, but then I have to think I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not her acting's fault. I think that's narrative problems. And so
Yeah,
like yeah, I don't mind her being here from an acting perspective. But narratively I agree with you. It's not paid off. I think the movie has other things that it's more
yeah.
concerned with getting across, which I don't know. There's a lot going on in that film. It's trying to cover a lot of topics.
It definitely is. And like I said, she just feels like an outlier. Like
Yeah,
she doesn't feel all that important to the story, and I just don't know that it's right to maybe award her for that
right.
when a lot of
Yeah.
these other people, like even, and I guess now is the time to talk about it, but like even Geena Davis in The Accidental Tourist,
Hmm.
um, while that movie doesn't make any sense to me, and she is she's very good in a completely different movie. Whatever it is she's doing doesn't exist in The Accidental Tourist, but she's very good at it. And so that's why I think she sneaks onto this list. That's me protecting Davis from a bad movie that she's really good in.
Right,
That's
right.
where I fall
Yeah.
on this, because I'll
And
never besmirch her.
absolutely. And I agree with you. I mean, it seems like I think we're very much on the same kind of page when it comes to these nominees, which is so interesting because I think a couple weeks ago we were still
Yeah.
trying to like figure out where we stood on these things. And so yeah, it's kind of I think we're really very much on the same page with these kind of with these nominees and with these movies. And yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll get to a consensus here in a minute. But before we do, let's talk about a few 1988 films that do not show up, or maybe show up in very minimal
Yeah, some do. Yeah.
capacities at the Oscars. Um, I'm going to start really quick just to get these out of the way because this is entirely inconsequential to this conversation, but I'm going to re-pick up that animated theme I mentioned earlier, and really lament the fact that the Oscars did not have an animated category at this time. It would be another long time before they actually get an animated category.
Yeah.
But 1988 was the year that Oliver and Company came out. Just a staple of my childhood was Oliver and Company. And this was also the year that The Land Before Time came out. Another staple of my childhood. Two, I think just
I
classic.
don't know how, because you're a child, but uh, yeah. No, those are huge staples of mine. VHS, saw Land Before Time in theaters. Absolutely wrecked me and destroyed my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the original Puss in Boots
Oh
came
yeah.
out too.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree though. Like if this we took way too long to add an animated category because I
Yeah.
think all three of those movies would have
I
landed
mean,
on there. Like it's
especially with the fact that Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out at this time. I
yeah,
mean, that's
which
a that's a
yeah,
that's a three movie nomination category right there. Oliver and
yeah,
Company, Land Before Time, Roger Rabbit. I might be
yeah,
missing other animated films, but like those are three that
huge.
deserved, to
Yeah,
have an animated category.
yeah. No, I completely agree. Yeah, the how we just missed all of those. And all you're telling me Oliver and Company with Billy Joel writing all of the original music couldn't land on the original on the original song category? Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's we can come back to the 61st. We
And
can
it's
come back to this year in a later episode and fix best original song because I got beef now. I got street savoir-faire. Let's go.
For what the 61st Academy Awards was, I think that they did their best. They just weren't quite progressive enough.
Yeah, no.
They just weren't quite open. I don't know, is open-minded the right term? I think that they tried. They tried, but
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
and I think one of the fun things about doing a year like this is you really see how different the Oscars were to where they
Mhm.
are now.
Yeah.
And kind of like you were talking about up top, with just like how different the show was actually running,
Hmm.
and they didn't have a host, but they were making it work. They changed the phrasing.
Hmm.
Everything felt smaller. All the categories were much more limited, so you can feel the difference from 88 to 2018 or whatever.
And it's so interesting because I think that there are just pros and cons that are traded because I think that this is a year that they really are trying to honor excellence in film. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's something that we've really gotten away from.
a little bit.
in
Yeah,
in some recent years. Some of these feel more obligatory nominations. Some feel a little shoehorned. But I can understand a lot of these nominations for this year.
yeah,
And vice versa. We're missing important categories like animated film, which certainly deserves some recognition here. And Yeah, and best song for a film that I guess wasn't worthy for Oscars at the time,
it
so
was. They just got it
it
wrong. That's all.
yes, there you go, right. Wasn't worthy. Really should have been, man.
Yeah.
um yeah, so what are your honorable
Yeah, I
mentions?
these are and look, this was this is a year that a lot of the films that I kind of grew up on when I started watching movies, a lot of these movies came out. around that time. So when I turned 12, 13, I would go back and, these movies are only what, 5 years removed from that or whatever. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there's Moonwalker, Die
Yeah.
Hard, Coming to America. I know Beetlejuice, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Willow, The Great Outdoors, which is like a family favorite of mine. Um, yeah, Oliver and Company, Short Circuit 2, which is terrible, but I was a huge Short Circuit fan. um, let's see. Yeah, just a lot of Mac and Me, one of the worst movies ever made. Um, Young Guns came out that year. Yeah, just there were 88 was a big year for me,
Hmm.
apparently. And I didn't realize how many of my favorite Big came out that year.
Big. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so big movies
Hmm.
that I think still hold a lot of weight in my heart. Punchline, if you've never seen Punchline, that's a really fun stand-up comedy movie with Tom Hanks as well,
Okay.
and Sally Fields. Really fun. Mystic Pizza, like, it was a good year. It was a very interesting year for film. I don't know. I think good is a little strong, but I have very fond memories of a lot of these movies, and a lot of them still hold a very big place in my heart. So
Yeah,
those are some honorable mentions that I would like to shout out.
absolutely. Good shout outs. Hopefully that that triggers some nostalgia for others out there. Not me, but others. The
Ugh,
last one, that was the last one, I promise. We're
ugh,
wrapping
get off my lawn.
up. Uh, all right. Well, let's wrap up on the best supporting actress category. I feel like we have a consensus. Is my thesis, how well does my thesis hold up here?
I am gonna say you've actually nailed it. I think through this discussion and kind of going back and revisiting a lot of these movies, or watching them for the first time, I think we were smart to move away from Best Actress.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of kind of just changing the trajectory of Sigourney Weaver and her career and what she could have been,
Hmm.
especially with this one too. It's
Hmm.
just a really good 1-2 punch. And while I do love Geena Davis, and
Hmm.
I think she is just absolutely wonderful and can do no wrong in my eyes, she really is in a different movie.
Hmm.
And the movie works better if you just think that she's not in The Accidental Tourist and like she's filming something else. It's just not this movie. They just edited that footage into here. But yeah, no, I think that between, I would switch out Michelle Pfeiffer for Uma Thurman.
Okay.
Frances McDormand doesn't really hold a lot of weight in Mississippi Burning, and then that really just leaves Cusack and Weaver. And I think Weaver's great in
Hmm.
in that supporting role. She's not in it very much, but she's really fun,
Hmm.
and she's just mean, and I love it. And it's a great role for her, and she does a really good job. So I'm perfectly fine with correcting this category, changing film history forever, resetting the timeline, and giving us a whole different world of Weaver for 40 years.
Oh, look,
Um,
Sigourney Weaver is now a five-time Oscar winner.
well, if you guys don't know, she's an anchor being. So we absolutely have to go back and make sure that her career survives longer and better. Otherwise, our timeline slowly dies.
I love it. I
Um,
love this multiverse analogy.
it's my educated wish.
That's your educated wish.
That's
Yes.
right.
Long live that phrase.
But yeah, I think we're in consensus.
All right, all right. And the snubbed Oscar goes to Sigourney Weaver. You are the spiritual winner of the best supporting actress of the 61st Academy Awards. Congratulations. I hope you see this and accept our award.
We love you.
Uh we love you. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Do you know what just happened? We just talked about all of Sigourney Weaver without talking a whole lot about aliens.
Yeah, you
I
footnoted
was
it, and then we never and then
I
we
was
never
so
brought it
convinced with
up.
Alien Romulus coming out or having come out. I
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet, but I was so convinced that aliens would be a very pivotal part of this conversation. I guess not.
yeah.
You know what? we get to hold that whole conversation for the 59th Oscars.
I love it. I love it.
I mean,
I do think I understand why you'd want to tie it in, but I do think by giving her the Oscar and essentially changing the trajectory of her career, Aliens doesn't hold nearly as much weight to her. Like yes, she'll be synonymous, but she'll only be synonymous with the first two. And like we said, I don't think she does the third one. I don't think she does Resurrection. I don't think she becomes the sci-fi icon that we kind of just equate her with now. Yeah. I think she does go into more dramatic stuff, and she kind of keeps doing those things. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of a trade-off. Like, do you want Ripley forever, or do you want all the work that we got robbed of by her just playing Ripley all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Valid point. We will have that discussion another time.
So. This is what happens when you reset the timeline.
I know.
Good old butterfly effect.
All right. Anything that we want to plug? I mean, we kind of talked about TIFF already. Is there anything else that's going on your end of film coverage?
No, I mean, TIFF is really what I'm preparing the most for. Obviously, check out nerdbot.com. Try to keep reviews up as much as I can. Definitely follow me and Thomas as well and his whole team, because TIFF coverage is going to be out there. So all the movies you're looking to see that all drop in December for a week in 2 theaters, we're going to cover those ones for you. Yes, and we'll tell you if you need to drive out there to go see them.
Yes, all you folks out in New York and Los Angeles, we're relevant too. Okay, we're going to try to we're going to try to get this out to you before you get it, and then you can decide. No, it's going to be great. And in our next episode, we'll probably have a little bit to talk about with TIFF. So yeah. So we will reconvene then. And until then, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Snubbed. We'll catch you next time.